Všechny srdečně vítám i děkuji za pozvání na konferenci. I když jazyk Jaroslava Haška rozumím a trochu jiným mluvím, rád bych pokračoval v angličtině. Okay? We had seen a very beautiful presentation from Laura, and I want to always say about few things about the presentation before. What we have to remember, it's very difficult to the disinfection for the Cryptosporidium. Believe me, 17 oocysts exist anywhere. So to use any chemicals and other physical methods for disinfection is very difficult, very, very difficult. Always, we have some products on the field when the SPC says they are good for Cryptosporidium. Always there is a notice after using these chemicals, please rinse with water and let it dry for a few days. Okay, it's very important. So the drying is very important for disinfection, and the humidity is very good for the cryptium. Remember this case, okay? So, I was finished my studies in 1995 in Warsaw, and immediately after I have received my gratuity as a veterinary doctor, I have started to work on a big-scale dairy farm, 2,000 dairy cows. So in a total, 4,000 animals. Very quickly, I have realized that I cannot treat all the animals. It's impossible. And in Hungary, we have a little bit situation like here in Czech Republic, that we have only big-scale farms. All the vets are employed by the farm, and we have salary from the farmer. Okay? So our goal was to work less time on a farm, do not treat, and focus on prevention. Prevention and prevention. Finally it means that I will spend less time on a farm with the same salary, and the benefits will have the farmer. He will be satisfied that everything goes on in a good way. I don't have to operate 70, 50 cows a year with dislocation of abomasum. I don't have to give an infusion for the calves every day, just to resolve how we can manage these topics to do not have cows with problems, do not have calves with problems. Okay? I have already mentioned that for 26 years I was working in a very big, large dairy farms. And in 2006, for 1 year, I was working for another company as a sales representative, so I know how it works. It's a very difficult work, but it's also a very important work. And from May 2023, MSG asked me to join the company as a technical manager for Central Europe region. My heart has 4 tips. I have 4 kids and a beautiful wife, but she doesn't agree to show her picture in the presentation, but she's a really beautiful woman. My kids grew up, and they are already during studies, so I can travel all around Europe and share my practical knowledge. I'm not a scientist. I have spent so many years in practice that I can resolve many problems, but always looking to resolve as a prevention, not treatment. Presentation topics. The colostrum is not only antibodies. Every time in the past we were speaking during conferences about colostrum, the focus was on antibodies. Now everybody knows what's antibodies, the absorption time of antibodies, the secretion, but there are many, many things beyond antibodies also in the colostrum. And usually you are forgetting about those topics. Colostrum, it's not antibodies. Colostrum, it's a colostrum. Antibodies is another topic, okay? Of course, the colostrum has lots of antibodies. What we are trying to do, Laura already mentioned that we are, during our work in the farms, the farmers, the breeders, they are trying to copy or replace the nature. It's very difficult. The colostrogenesis, the colostrum, the immune system of the dairy cattle developed within thousands, millions of years. We are trying to change it within 50 years, so it's almost impossible. But there are some solutions that we can copy almost perfectly the nature. Short video, this is the nature. The cow is suckling the mother in a perfect way, perfect position, and she's with the mother. Okay? Now we are talking about the topics that sooner or later, I will show you later, that we have to go back to this situation. Suckling, sucking many times a day. I will show later on how much can suck a calf from the mother. And after calving, what we are doing now? We are separating the calves from the mother immediately after calving. And then we are providing from them colostrum, feeding, whatever. When started this method of animal keeping? The separation started approximately 50 years ago, when the main reason for separation of the calves from the mother was a transmission of the diseases. Okay? Do not have a contact with the mother because she can have this, and this, whatever diseases. Let's separate, let's have a good colostrum, and in that case, we will not transmit the disease. But the science goes on, and right now, we have approximately, in case of cows, the dry period to control the cow. It means that it's approximately from minimum 35 days to 60 days to check the milk, to check the blood for diseases, we have a disease or not, but this, right now, it's possible. Also with the heifers, we have a longer time for heifers still calving. But those approximately 50 days should be enough to be sure that there will be no disease transmission between the mother and the calf. You have already seen that picture. We have a colostrum, transition milk, and milk. To clarify something, colostrum is the first milking. Every next milking is already a transition milk. And in average, to the time from having colostrum to have a pure milk is 5 days. More or less, maybe 4 in some cases, maybe 6 in some cases, but in general, we are talking about 5 days. And unfortunately, as Laura showed, we are having this part, the colostrum, we are feeding the calves with colostrum, and we are forgetting about the transition milk. I want to bore with this topic because Laura already explained this topic very well, but let's take a look on that picture. This is a proportion of antibodies in colostrum and transition milk. In the colostrum, if you take a total amount of antibodies, this is only 25% of all produced antibodies. The rest of it is in the transition milk. Very important. So, nature created a transition milk, and the transition milk, if nature creates something, it's very important. So this is the importance of transition milk and the local immunity. You will see later on a video that the antibodies are binding in the intestinal gut, in the lumen of the gut, the pathogens. This is what for is the transition milk, to reduce the infection pressure in the gut. When we are feed our animals only with colostrum, we will forget about that very important period. Here you can see that from till 24 hours, the absorption is closed. No antibody will enter the system, the organ. After 24 hours, this is only local immunity, and those antibodies are working in the lumen. This is a typical behavior of the calf after calving. Usually you are forcing that immediately after calving we need to milk the cow, first of all, feed the calf with the colostrum. But in nature, the secretion of IgG will last until 3 hours of calving. So it's still increasing in the colostrum. Why is it like that? Because in the nature, calf will reach her mother, will suck her mother after 2 hours, no earlier. She's not standing, she cannot walk. So it will be in the nature after 2 hours. So, secretion of the IgG to the colostrum. Somebody asked me that the colostrogenesis starts approximately 5 weeks before calving. This is a colostrogenesis, but the secretion of the IgGs, antibodies to the colostrum, starts approximately 3 weeks before calving. So if we have early calvings, more than 2 weeks, more than 3 weeks before planned calving, we have to think, do we have enough antibodies in the colostrum? Maybe the color of the colostrum will be the same, because the color is not antibodies, this is grease, okay? But the content of antibodies in early calving cows is much more lower than in a normal situation. We have mentioned that the colostrum intake, how it looks in the nature, when we are leaving the calf with the dam, with the mother, and how much she can suck, she can drink. This is ad libitum, okay? We can see that shortly, within 4 or 5 days, the intake in the nature rises up to 8 liters. So it's a very fast way that she will start to suck the mother and rises up to 8 liters. Later on, we can see that it's dropping down a little bit because she is fully fed with antibodies, with fat, with energy, and it's enough for her. And then it increases also up to 12 liters. In a practice, we are doing it a different way. You are starting to feed artificially our calves 2 times a day, if it's a traditional method. And in the traditional method, we are rising up to 8 liters, feeding 2 times a day, maybe 10 liters in a higher period. Okay? The difference right now is that most of the farm, they are starting to use robots for feeding. What we are doing, we are going back to the nature. The cow is attempting the robot as many times as she wants. And here we have to be very careful in the later period of calf life that if you are using milk replacers, which the protein content is about, after dilution, about 200 milligrams in a total 8-10 liters, versus 300-400 grams in 10 liters of milk, she cannot drink that amount, okay? From milk, it's enough to provide her 300 grams for growing 1,000 gram daily gain, just 8 liters with a protein content of 4%. The same situation, we should feed 12-13 liters with a replacer, which protein content is about 21%. After dilution, for 10 liters, we have 200 grams of protein in milk replacer. Milk replacer is very good. What we have to control in the milk replacers, that the origin of the fat and the proteins should be from milk, not from vegetable. There are much more better digestion of those products which the protein and the fat is from milk. I know the other products are less expensive. So the rising of the colostrum intake in the 5 days. How the components are changing in the colostrum. These not all the components of the colostrum. Remember, I've just put in this graph the much more important, but we cannot say that this is important, this is not important. It's something is in the colostrum, it's important, even if in a small amount. Okay? I have highlighted 3 things. First of all, IgG. We know everything about immunoglobulins in colostrum, but there are also some other factors. In red is fat, IGF, insulin growth factor, and the insulin. They are decreasing very rapidly from colostrum to transition milk. They have also a very huge role in the growth of our animals and the developing of immune system. Probably we are thinking when we are reaching a good colostrum, but what kind of impact during the pregnancy dry period can have a negative impact of colostrum absorption? There was two trials I will show you. One of these, that during the dry period, group of cows was, during the dry period, was energy restricted, okay? And group of cows was with the normal nutrition. What happened? The cows, normally you would think that the cows with the energy restrictions will produce a weaker colostrum. It's totally different. The energy restricted cows producing better colostrum. You can see here, yes? This is significant difference. But if you will go further, the level of the antibodies in the calf serum from the control group, which were not energy restricted, is higher. So there is a contraindication. We have a better colostrum in those animals which were energy restricted, and somehow we see that the level of the antibodies in day calves is weaker, lower. The same situation is when there is a heat stress on the farm. There was also a trial that there was a control group and heat stress dams. It was during that the same farm, parts of the cows in a dry group were exposed to the sun, and parts of the animals, dams, were cooled with the water spraying, okay? Very easy. What we can see here also, that the group which was on the heat stress produced a better colostrum. And again, the level of antibodies in the calf was better from the group of cooled mothers. So there's a contraindication, but we'll see why it happens. Just go back for a little bit to development of the intestinal tract of the calf. It starts already during the fetal life. From the 28 days of life, already is developing the gut, the rumen, the abomasum, and it lasts even after calving. So it's a very long period, and if there is any kind of impact during that period to the mother, it may damage the gut. The gut may not be developed in a perfect way. You see, red line, development of the intestinal tract, the rumen, the intestinum, the abomasum still lasts even after calving. Let's clarify something from the point of view of the fetus. The heat stress is the same situation as energy restriction for the dam. This is the same from the point of view of the fetus, okay? Why it happens? We have the fetus. We know that during the 70% of pregnancy, our animals are in lactation. We are talking about cows, yes? They have to provide energy for the milk production and for the fetus. This is the two main energy where goes to the fetus and to the other. What happens if you have a heat stress? Very easy to explain. When there is a heat stress for animals, a very big amount of the blood is going under the skin to cool the mother. And what will happen? She will not lose the milk production, but the energy flow to the fetus, it will be much more lower, very low. So the fetus receives not enough energy. For compensation this situation, probably you have heard these articles, that the heat stress dams, when there is an autopsy, their cotyledons are much more bigger than the cows without heat stress. The dam, the mother wants to compensate the blood flow to the fetus. That's why the cotyledons are much more bigger. What can cause from the, of course, the heat stress has any other problems, acidosis, dislocations, mastitis, whatever, but what will cause in the development of the gut the heat stress or the energy restriction? We have a absorption surface of the goat kids. It was a very interesting trial. So the dams were energy restricted, and here we can see that the development of the gut surface in young goat kids was not perfect. The absorption surface This is 50% weaker than in the healthy goat. So, the nature. What the nature does in this situation? To provide better protection for the calves, they producing better quality colostrum. Somehow, the dams, they know that there will be a problem with the absorption. And that's why the colostrum quality is higher. To provide, to correct this failure of the absorption surface. So remember, energy restriction and the heat stress from the point of view of the fetus is the same. Sometimes it happens on a farm that even perfectly done colostrum management. Everything is perfect, the colostrum is perfect, the time is perfect. We have a failure of the absorption. So, infections, okay, we know everything about it. Poor colostrum quality, forget it, because we have everything in a good, we've done everything in a good mood. Too small amount, forget it. Late presentation, remember that picture, okay? That picture can cause for us that even if we have done everything perfectly, we'll have a very small levels of immunoglobulins in the calf. Another topic about colostrum. There is always an argument. Should we pasteurize the colostrum or not? I'm against this one. I will explain you why. First of all, pasteurization, usually it's a method for food preservation. I mean, orange juices, fruit juices, milk, whatever. This is usually below 100 Celsius for 2 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. And this destroys the pathogens, but also can have an influence to destroy the enzymes and other components of the colostrum. Colostrum pasteurization, why? We have explained. When we contaminate the colostrum during our process, when we have a healthy cow and properly done drying off, good drying off period, we can be sure that the colostrum will be good and no contamination. Colostrum is not a sterile something. There are always some bacteria and coliforms, but in a very small number. It's not a sterile. So additionally, those bacteria, they have a very huge role to development of the microbiome of the gut. So those calves which are fed naturally, not infected, and those cows which are fed only with sterilized milk or colostrum, the development of the microbiome is very poor. Just take a look for a trial in England. They had 58 farms, more than 300 samples, and they were 3 points when they were taking samples from the same milk, direct from the tits, from the milking device, and from the milking device. So 3 steps. And just take a look that at the beginning we have a total bacteria count, coliform count, very small amount, but from the milking devices or feeding devices, it's a very huge amount. So remember, we are contaminating the colostrum during our procedure, the workers with hands. There was a funny situation because once I have asked in a farm how you measure, how you control your colostrum. I'm putting my hand in the colostrum. It's sticky, yellow, sweet, whatever. So the most contaminated tool in a farm is our hand, or the hand of the worker who is checking the colostrum. Forget it. Oh, it's sticky. Forget it. We are contaminating immediately after milking our colostrum. This is a picture maybe from you, Leona. Yes, you found somewhere there. I don't know where, but this is disaster. How to keep the colostrum, preservation of colostrum. And remember one very important thing. This is the kitchen for calves. And if we are preparing food for ourselves or in a restaurant, the kitchen in the restaurant looks like that. Okay? So we can manage it somehow to have a separate room for colostrum management. Okay? And we will not have problems with the contamination. Dark side of the pasteurization, Probably from that topic you know that I'm a fan of Pink Floyd. Every tool has a dark side. Remember once again, we have pasteurized the colostrum, but antibodies are heat sensitive. So the 60 degrees Celsius is a maximum because 62 can destroy or damage the antibodies. It's a very, very thin barrier. We can cross that barrier very rapidly. And that's the reason that for the pasteurization of the colostrum, we can use only the method called LTLT. It means low temperature, maximum 60 degrees, for a long time, 30, 60 minutes. This is the pasteurization of colostrum, nothing else. Probably Laona will share with you this table. This is the tools, chemicals, physicals, and other, what we can preserve the colostrum. I don't want to bother you with all of those topics, but the chemicals, fridge and the refrigeration, and high technology procedures. So we have some citric acid, formaldehyde, potassium sorbate, freezing or fridging, and we have spray drying technology, ultraviolet technology, lyophilization. What is very interesting in those methods for having a dried milk or dried colostrum? Except one, what is a spray drying, they don't use heat. So everybody avoids heat during preparation of artificial colostrum. Remember that one. The spray dry technology is used generally for preparation milk powder, not colostrum powder. Okay? In a small, why we have those methods? Because we have sometimes very small farms, they don't have colostrum bank, and they have to preserve somehow the colostrum. Very common way to preserve the colostrum is to use the potassium sorbate. In a fridge, we can keep colostrum without any chemicals for 2 days with using potassium sorbate, of course, with a clean devices for 1 week. With freezing, we can keep it for 1 year. But the message is don't use external heat for colostrum preservation. What kind of colostrum powders we have? What is the benefit of colostrum leprasers? It's easy to store, always on a farm. Okay? Easy to proceed the administration on time because I will take a few liters of milk, I will dilute the powder, I have a colostrum. Remember a few very important things. They are not farm specific. Okay? Usually all those colostrums has antibodies in Rota, Corona, and E. coli, and nothing else. We have some other pathogens on a farm. The same situation is do not use colostrum from other farms because there are two neighbors. Hey, do you have any colostrum? Can you give me a small amount? No, forget it. Of course, this is better than nothing. So if there is no colostrum, or we have a weak colostrum, we don't have colostrum bank, we can increase or replace the colostrum with those tools. And the same as with the milk replacers, the fat and the protein should be milk originated, not from vegetables. The same situation. Of course, the SPC will not say, because it will say we have this amount of proteins and fat and whatever. If we are taking a look for a SPC of any medication, we have a very huge list. If you will take a look on the SPC or the label of the milk replacer and the colostrum replacer, there we have just few basic informations. You have to look deeper what it has inside. Next very interesting topic, there are two common ways, except the nature that the cow is suckling the mother, of providing the colostrum for calves. If you are talking within first 24 hours, first day. One of them is bottle with nipple, and the second one is drench. If you are looking for the point of view of antibody level in the calf serum, both methods can be good. We can receive similar results, no difference. Drench is much more time efficient because we'll provide 10% of body weight at once. It means 3.5 kilograms to 4.5 kilograms. It's enough for 1 day. In using a bottle with a nipple, we have to approach our calves for 2-3 times in the first day to provide for them 4 liters of colostrum. But when they are suckling, they are producing saliva, lots of saliva. During the drench, they are not producing saliva. They are just trying to get out from us. This is not good for them. No saliva production. During the suckling, there is saliva. Saliva has a lot of antibodies, IgGs, a lot of it. When she's producing saliva during the suckling, there is a recirculation within 24 hours of the IgGs to the blood. And after that, those antibodies from the saliva are still working for us in the gut. So remember, saliva, saliva, saliva. There are some researchers that we all know that we are hurted, we have some injury. First thing we are doing, we are licking our hand, animals are licking the leg, if it's possible. It's not only because of mechanical cleaning of the injury, it's also the saliva works here. Once again, components of our colostrum. And not the last topic, but I have highlighted the IGF-1, it's insulin growth factor. This is also very important in the colostrum. How will work for us the insulin growth factor? So this is not the same picture. So somebody asked me before, this is the same picture. This is not the same picture, not the same trial as we've seen before. There was a huge trial that they were feeding in 3 different ways colostrum after calving. First group, just first day colostrum and then for additional 5 days the colostrum, or together in for 5 days the colostrum. Second group, it was colostrum for the first day and in a proportion 1:1 from second to the fourth day, colostrum and milk. And the third group was only milk after the first day. And look, this is a similar picture, or looks similar. The surface of the gut is not, it's developed. This is not damage on the surface, but significantly shorter villi, okay? So the absorption will be also much more weaker. What will cause it for us? First of all, when we are feeding a proper amount of milk or replacer and we have a nutritional diarrhea. Why? Because from the point of view of quantity and quality, everything seems to be okay. We are feeding 8 liters with that percentage of proteins, fat, but there is a nutritional diarrhea. One of the cases can be this one. There is not enough absorption surface. How to make a difference between nutritional diarrhea and infectious or diarrhea made by pathogens? For the first days, there are no clinical symptoms in the nutritional diarrhea. Calf is normal, no temperature, is eating, drinking, normal behavior, just a diarrhea. In case of disease, we have to find something. There must be a symptom, at least the abdominal pain, a temperature, whatever. But remember, very important thing, every nutritional diarrhea, when we will not act in a proper time, will turn to infectious diarrhea. No way. So if we have for 3 days nutritional diarrhea, we will not do anything, we will have an infectious diarrhea. So absorption surface, 50% less. And look for some numbers. Trial from one farm. We had 3 groups of animals. First group was fed first day, the 0 day. The first feeding was with the colostrum in all 3 groups. Then we have a different type of feeding. Only milk replacer for 4 days, 2.5 liter milk replacer plus dried colostrum in that amount, and for the third day and fourth day only milk. And we have the group which was fed with milk and dried colostrum for 4 days. The same group, same farm, no different farm, because if you will do that trial in different farms, we can say that this is a different situation, different infectious pressure. This was in one farm. And look for the numbers. This is a control group, shorter colostrum providing and long colostrum providing. Diarrhea treatment, less. Respiratory treatment, it was the same in that group, but the respiratory diseases appear later on, as Laura said. This is not the disease for first 30 days, it's a disease which appears later on. But look for the mortality, and what's very, very important, for the daily gains. It's 100 grams more per day. Okay? So very, very interesting data. And we can show you it on a graphs also. So the black line shows for us that they are growing much more better. And this is because they have better developed surface for absorption, nothing else. What means for us 100 grams more per day? It means that the calf, if she was born with 40 kilograms and we want to reach 100, so the day gain is 60 kilograms, it will take 6 days less for us, 6 days. It's a very big amount in that short period of life of the calf. Okay, and last topic, we were speaking about a little bit about antibodies, growth factor, immunoglobulins, whatever. What is the fat? Why we have bigger amount of fat in the colostrum? Naturally, when the calf is after calving, there are no energy reserves. So she has to heat somehow her. Of course, there is a brown fat in a calf, but in a very small amount. But the brown fat needs energy, needs fuel. It's a white fat. So brown fat will not generate heat for us without white fat, very simply. So we have to feed immediately, in a very short period, our calf to start to generate heat. Okay, very important. How we can control it in a farm? During the winter and cold months, of course, it's much more important. But when we are arriving to the calving area in the morning and we are seeing a shivering calf, and you are asking the person, you already fed the colostrum? Yes, 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 but the calf is shivering, it means no. What there are solutions? Feed as soon as possible the colostrum to provide also energy for the calf, not antibodies, not IGF, energy for the calf. I haven't seen in the nature calf wearing a coat. This is a replacer, okay? We don't have time to feed the animal in a proper time, so we will buy a coat and it will solve the heat problems. No, it's not true. European Food Safety Authority, there is an opinion that the calf should stay with the dam at least for 1 day, okay, to provide her her natural environment, nothing else. This is a very big stress for the calf when we are taking her from the mother, and also a stress for the dams when we are taking away the calf. But there is also new project that in the European authority that it would be good to keep them together for 5 days. So back to the nature. There is no disease transmission, they are growing better, they are feeling better, we are providing a very good immune system for her. So once again, the nature created a very good tool. Try to copy the nature, replace, do not cheat the nature. So anything you will cheating the animals, they don't lie. They will show for us that something is wrong with our procedure. And copy the nature. Thank you very much. Děkuji za pozornost.
Ďakujem za peknú prednášku. Mám otázku. Teľata sú krmené tranzitným mliekom, takže tým mledzivom v podstate, čo ste tam ukazoval, 5 dní. Potom prechádzajú na sušené mlieko, na milk replacer. a zhruba druhý až tretí deň dostanú prújem. Je to nutričný prújem, alebo je to kryptosporidióza?
So, first of all, there is an opinion on a field that if you will feed more colostrum after the first day, more and more colostrum, we'll have a diarrhea, a nutritional. It's not true. Colostrum will not cause it as a good colostrum, a nutritional diarrhea, okay? So I would be rather, my opinion, and not only my opinion, is that during the procedure of colostrum management, the keeping of the colostrum increases the total bacteria count and E. coli count, and that will cause diarrhea. Nutritional diarrhea is not caused by Cryptosporidium parvum. Cryptosporidium parvum is not a nutritional diarrhea. Okay? It's diarrhea.
Jo,
So
rozumiem, ale krmíme 5 dní tranzitné kolostrum. Jo, vy ste ukazoval obrázok, že nie je vyvinutý dobre systém črevný krypty, preto keď sa začne krmiť potom mlieko, není na to zvyknuté. Ten systém črevný. Takže dochádza k poruche vstrebávaniu mlieka. Takže to môže byť nutričný prújem. Ale kolegyňa pred vami hovorila, že kryptosporidia sa vyskytuje od 7. alebo od 6. dňa. A teraz, kde je tá? Neviem, či mi rozumiete tej otázky.
what can cause in a very young first few days a transition nutrition diarrhea, okay? The first very important point, if we are feeding like in the nature milk and transitional milk with slightly decreasing amount of fat, lactose, whatever, this is not a very strong change for feeding, yes? So the change will be prolongated for 5 days. It's the same situation if one day we are starting to feed after milk a replacer without transition period between two methods of feeding, we will also have a diarrhea because this is a quick change, too fast change for the calf. So that's why if you are having a period for transition milk, this point of nutritional diarrhea will be not so strong. Of course, infection of with Cryptosporidium parvum can be at the first day. Okay? Diarrhea after infection with the Cryptosporidium parvum, of course, depends of the ingested amount. Because we will have only 17 oocysts, the diarrhea will appear after 4 or 5 days. But in nature, if there is a contact with Cryptosporidium, it's a higher number, much more higher number with the bacteria. We can have a diarrhea after 3 days with the calves. So I cannot see the correlation between the nutrition diarrhea caused by wrongly performed feeding and the infection. Infection always will cause for us a nutritional diarrhea.